Week 13 of the NFL season is upon us, which means we only have a couple of weeks before the playoffs. Right now, I am 117-62, went 9-4 last week, so definitely could have been better. Should have figured that with the amount of favorites that I picked that I would get one or two or underdog picks wrong, but we'll do better this week. Back to, well, this week is a very abnormal week for NFL football because, of course, it's Thanksgiving week, so we have 3 games on Thanksgiving. We have that stupid game on Black Friday, and then the normal games on Sunday, and the average Monday night game. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and let's get to it. With our first game of the week, Chicago and Detroit. Now, Detroit came off another big win over the Colts. Really were never in danger of losing that game. Chicago, despite coming back, still find ways to lose. They always seem to do. This largely in part because Caleb Williams took one of the worst sacks you will ever take. Even as a rookie, you need to know that if someone is coming at you, you should try and get the ball away. I know I've never played the position, but still, the whole time he's just trying to juke out the defender, but it's just like he's still coming. Get rid of the ball. And the result, they went down to 2nd and 20. But that basically ended any chance of the Bears coming back. But do the Bears have a chance to win this week? Well, sure they do. I mean, Caleb certainly has played better the past couple weeks. Their running game has been better, and the receivers have been showing up. Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore all had pretty darn good games last week, and they're still staying in there. But the Lions are still just a whole different team. Despite losing Aiden Hutchinson, their pass rush hasn't lost a step, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is injured with a shoulder injury, I believe, but I believe he should be ready to go. And same thing with David Montgomery. He suffered a shoulder injury as well in the game on Sunday, but probably won't be back. Again, this seems like another game where Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery switch it off with Amon-Ra getting a touchdown here because he's been on a tear lately with like 8 straight games with a touchdown, which is one of the longest streaks in the NFL history, I do believe. But despite the way the Bears have been playing, they're not winning on Thanksgiving Day. The Lions win once again, 27-24. Certainly a close game for most of the day, but the Lions still carry the day. Next, the Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. Probably one of the worst games you could possibly subject anybody to on Thanksgiving. The Giants coming off an embarrassing defeat to Tampa Bay. I mean, at no point were they competitive. At no point was that game close. Even when it was 0-0, you knew from the first get-go that the Buccaneers were going to win. They were going to win big. The Giants stood no chance. Despite changing quarterbacks, Tommy Cutlets, still not great. Not great at all. No, I mean, the conventional wisdom would say to give Drew Lock a chance since look what he did with it for the Giants at the end of the year last year, but nah. Throw out the headline stealer, Tommy Cutlets, even though he's fucking trash. Dallas, for all their problems, Cooper Rush had a pretty darn good game last week, and their special teams shined through. So, as long as Cooper Rush plays like he did last week, they should win the game. Because the Giants have a great player, Malik Neighbors, but no one can get him the ball. Tyron Tracy is a decent running back, probably be the starter next year as long as he stays healthy, but not much going there. It's just their defense is terrible. Although they have a couple pieces here and there, they need a complete overhaul from top to bottom. So have the Cowboys. But at the very least, the Cowboys still have CeeDee Lamb. They still have, if Cooper Rush can do what he did last week, they should be fine. The defense still have Chandler Parsons and a couple pieces there, but as long as the offense can perform like they did last week, the Cowboys should win. In this game, the total will be 20-14. I'll give the Giants at least a couple touchdowns, but nothing more than that. Next, Las Vegas and Kansas City. The Raiders are now without Gardner Minshew for the rest of the year, so that means Aiden O'Connell is back in the starting position. Kansas City with the near loss last week. If you're a Chiefs fan, I would think you would be kind of shitting your pants right now because the Carolina Panthers certainly looked much better. I mean, if you're going to say anything good about the Panthers, Bryce Young probably earned another year in Carolina for sure. I mean, he's been great. He's been really good. He's kept down the turnovers. He's looked a lot better or getting in and out of the pocket. Sure, he still made a couple errant throws, but again, he's still a young quarterback. But at the very least, some of the throws he's made the past couple weeks have looked really good and show that maybe he does have a place in this league. So he's going to be the starting quarterback, I would assume, for the rest of the year. No reason to go back to Andy Dalton, especially if Bryce Young is playing like this. No reason to go back to Andy Dalton. Kansas City, they just don't look great. They still have great pieces on defense, but you can tell that the loss of Justin Watson is going to be huge for them. But the Chiefs are still the Chiefs until further notice, so I'm still going to rock with the Chiefs, even though they did lose to the Raiders last year. But the thing is, the Raiders haven't had any consistent rushing game at all year long. I would expect this would be a Brock Bowers game. Get Brock Bowers the ball. Continue to give it to Jacoby Myers because he's been pretty efficient as well. Maybe the Raiders can pull off an upset or at least keep it close, but man, I don't see a lot of hope for the Raiders to win this game. Far different than last year when Zamir White had over 140 rushing yards. Zamir White is just not the same this year, and I just don't see any reason for the Raiders to win. Maybe they can. Maybe it'll be a surprise upset, but for now, the Chiefs win 24-17. Somewhat close game for most of it, but Chiefs pull away at the end. Next. The Chargers versus Atlanta, a good-looking game. Now it probably lost some shine because of the knee injury to J.K. Dobbins, so hopefully he's able to go this week. You could tell their offense against the Ravens really broke down once he went out. You can tell he's cleared the bell cow in that offense. Gus Edwards is a decent change of pace back, but he is not a starting running back in this league anymore. Atlanta coming off a bye, but before then they lost 2 straight and they got beat pretty badly. So Atlanta needs a win. They need a win this week for sure. They are drastically losing ground in that NFC South now. I mean, they still have a couple game buffer over Tampa Bay, but if they if it gets close, I will trust Tampa Bay far more over Atlanta because Atlanta always seems to fall down in these situations. The Chargers defense lost a couple players last night, so hopefully they're able to get some of them back. You can just tell the Chargers just were beat by the better team last night. I think the Chargers still have a really good chance to win. It's just Justin Herbert is a pretty up and down quarterback. You never know what you're going to get on a weekly basis. Sure, he keeps the turnovers down, but again, he hasn't done anything really big to help show that the Chargers can really do something when it comes to January football. But I will give the game to the Chargers. It is in Atlanta, but just with the way Atlanta has been playing, they've been inconsistent. Chargers have been able to keep keep a hold on the opposing team's running game. Okay, yes, they gave up a lot of yards to Justice Hill and Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry is a unicorn. Bijan Robinson certainly is good, but I just think the Chargers will get back to where they normally are. If J.K. Dobbins is able to play, they should be able to charge through. And it's just Kirk Cousins. Whenever he strays too far, I know other commentators have said this before, whenever he strays too far for 500 or too far above, they go down. It's just the way it seems in this league. I will give the game to the Chargers. Mind you, I have the right to change it, but right now, Chargers win 23-20. Younghoe Koo misses another field goal at the end. Next. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, another good-looking game. Cincinnati coming off a bye. Joe Burrow has been fantastic all year long. Pittsburgh with the loss in the snow to Cleveland. Probably should have had that win, but, too many turnovers at times. Russell Wilson should get back to where he should be. George Pickens should probably have a pretty good game this week. Jaylen Warren has been charging forward. I mean, I still like Najee Harris as starting running back, but every year you have something like this where, or like last year, Jaylen Warren came on strong at the end. Then he got injured in the beginning of the year. This year, that it's taken a long time for him to make his way back. But I mean, again, at times, Jaylen Warren just looks like the better running back, more consistent. Able to get more consistent yardage. Najee Harris is still a beast out there, but there's something about it that just makes me feel like Jaylen Warren could be a really good running back if you're lost in running back over the year and you need one in a pinch. Jaylen Warren might be a good guy to get you some points down the way with fantasy playoffs like a week away, 2 weeks away for most people. Pittsburgh, their defense should get back to business this week. I don't think TJ Watt's going to go 2 straight weeks without a sack. It's going to be a really close game. It's a real test for Cincinnati. Cincinnati absolutely needs to win this game. I think if Cincinnati loses, their road to the playoffs is basically gone. I mean, really, they absolutely need to win this week. It's at home in Cincinnati. Your fans should be there, should be ready to go. But, man, if Jamar Chase can have a game like he has had most of the year, Cincinnati has a really good chance to win. But if they get kept down and Joe Burrow throwing interceptions, it's going to be a long off season for the Bengals. It really is. Just a real possibility that we're probably going to at least lose T. Higgins and maybe Jamar Chase due to Mike Brown's cheapness. But Pittsburgh wins in this one 24-21. Cincinnati just comes up a little bit short because their kicker, Evan McPherson, while he is a good kicker, has not been consistent for most of the year. Next. Houston versus Jacksonville. A much more interesting game. Jacksonville coming off a bye. Houston, another loss. Houston. Nico Collins came back and they're still losing games. To say I'm concerned would be an understatement. Joe Mixon could not get the ball going at all last week against Tennessee. Nico Collins had a good game, but again, Stroud throwing inopportune interceptions and as a result, losing the game. Tennessee was not great, but my God, Will Levis outplayed C.J. Stroud. It's just a fact. And now we'll see if Trevor Lawrence is able to go. If Trevor Lawrence is able to go, they have a much better shot to win. I don't think they have any chance to win with Mac Jones, but they need to get. If Jacksonville wants to win, they need to get that running game going. Tank Bigsby hasn't been the same for quite a while. ETN, even though he's been the leading rusher since he's returned, has really not been what we've seen in years past. This has got to be a get-right game for Houston. They got to get it going. Nico Collins should have over 100 yards today or this week. C.J. Stroud, if you want to say he's coming back, I would expect him to have at least 3 touchdowns. If he keeps throwing interceptions like he has, those fans are going to keep booing him. The tides are turning in Houston on C.J. Stroud. People are getting really upset. He's certainly having that sophomore slump, and it's not getting better. I would have thought Nico Collins would have fixed a lot of those issues, but no, a lot of the issues still return. C.J. Stroud still holds onto the ball too long, still throws too many interceptions of late. And again, it's just, if you're a Houston fan, you're worried. You should feel pretty confident going into this week against Jacksonville, but I don't know how confident really you should be, because if last week is any indication, Houston is not undefeatable by any stretch of the imagination. ever since that loss to Detroit, man, I mean, they have not been the same. Well, actually, even since that loss to the Jets, they have not been the same. Houston is going downhill, and they should still win this division because Indy is not a consistent team. Tennessee is basically out of it. Jacksonville is basically out of it. So it is Houston's division to win. But keep losing. They're not going to do well in the playoffs. They're just not. I think Houston should win pretty easily for the most part. 28-17. But by golly, if Jacksonville was able to get Stroud into some uncomfortable situations, but he's throwing picks, Jacksonville has a shot. Then Houston need to get it together, need to get right game. And if there is such a thing, this week is the week. Next, Arizona versus Minnesota. Minnesota with the win despite trying every way possible to lose. Arizona got absolutely destroyed by Seattle. Yes, the score was only 16-6, but the game wasn't close. That was a bad pick, and I can't imagine picking Arizona again this week. I can't. Arizona, I mean, after winning 4 straight, maybe it's just because they play bad competition, but could not get anything going on the ground. Kyler Murray could not get anything going through the air. Their defense held up for the most part, only giving up 16 points, but still, at times, Seattle pressed their advantage and looked like the far better team. I don't like Seattle in the slightest. I really don't, as both a team and they're just not consistent. But their defense has shown what a Mike McDaniel's defense can look, or Mike Daniels' defense can look like. He can create as a championship defense on there. They have some really good pieces. But Minnesota, their defense has been pretty darn good for the most part, although they kind of screwed up a couple times last week, allowing 27 points to the Bears. They had the Bears beaten, but I mean, the fact that they gave up that onside recovery is just terrible. If you remember watching that game, Johnny Munt, instead of just backing up, he charges for the defender, not paying any attention to where the ball is. Ball bounces off his foot and into Chicago hands. Now, I mean, I don't think that's indicative of their special teams. I just think it was a bad play. But Minnesota's got to definitely be better. Sam Darnold has been pretty darn good, all things considered. He's kept the turnovers down. It would be nice to see him throw to Justin Jefferson, but it seems like he has a better rapport with Jordan Addison right now, and T.J. Hawkinson as well. Aaron Jones, while not consistent, had a pretty good game this week, although he did fumble at the goal line, so that's something that's always happened to him. He's always had that problem at times. The inopportune fumbling has been a stigma of his game since Green Bay, but Minnesota, it's in Minnesota. They should win this game. As much as I hate to say Minnesota's going to win, they are. I just can't in all good conscience pick Arizona. After what they did last week, Arizona, I'm fading Arizona the rest of the year. They do have a good chance to still win their division, but they need to win this week, and I just don't think that's going to happen. In the end, Minnesota wins 24-17. Should be a good game, all things considered, but Arizona's just, unless they're able to get Connor going on the ground, which could happen this week, they're not going to win. They're just not going to win. Next. Indy versus New England. Kind of a terrible looking game. Anthony Richardson needs a bounce back. Now, this could be a good game for him to bounce back. New England has given up his fair share of really good games to quarterbacks. Their defense does have some options for sure. Jonathan Taylor has not had a good game these last couple of weeks, and it could be another week where he doesn't have a good week because Indy was able to hold a chain to under 30 yards last week, or most Miami Dolphins running back had under 30 weeks. Now, combined, they probably had 60-70 rushing yards, but as an individual sample size, they didn't do very well. They got killed in the secondary for sure. Tua tore them up from limb to limb from start to finish. It was not close. Now, if Anthony Richardson can do something like that, they do stand a pretty good chance to win. If Jonathan Taylor can get anything going on the ground, like anywhere near 70 to 80 rushing yards, maybe a touchdown or two, that would be a good game for Jonathan Taylor and a nice bounce back for sure. Because last week he was kept under laps. Last week, other than that 14-yard run that he had, he was 10 for 21. Yikes, not good. Colts defense is decent for the most part. New England's defense is can be pretty good at times. Drake May, this could be a game for him to really get going. New England's rushing attack hasn't really done much lately the past couple of weeks. Ramondre Stevenson just hasn't been the same guy he was kind of a couple games during the earlier part of the season. I like Indy to win this game. Anthony Richardson just needs to, play like he did last week before the Lions game. In the end, Indy wins 20-17. Not very high scoring, but I think Indy has enough to win. Next. Seattle versus the Jets. Like I was saying earlier, Seattle's defense has been pretty darn good the last couple weeks. JSN has been a revelation the past couple weeks, really taking the reins as a number one type wide receiver. Kenny Walker has been consistent, but he's still gotten his yards. But the biggest thing about Seattle that you really have to like about them going forward is the defense. If they can make it into the playoffs and the defense plays like they have been, they could be a threat to go far. I mean, I still don't like Geno Smith. Still don't think he's consistent enough. I still think he sometimes throws too many interceptions like he has for most of the year. But they should win this game going away. The Jets coming out the bye week. Again, all the turmoil. Aaron Rodgers probably still the starter, but they haven't been the same. Breece Hall and their receiving core, I don't see them doing a lot this week against Seattle. Sure, it is on the East Coast, but I don't think that matters much. If the Seattle can carry their defense from last week into this week, Seattle's going to win. I don't think it's going to be particularly close either. Even though Geno might throw some interceptions, Seattle's by far the better team. It's not even close. I really don't give the Jets any chance to win this game. If they do, it'll be a fluke. It'll be a miracle. Seattle wins 28-14. Like I said, not a good game. Seattle wins handily. Next. Tennessee versus Washington. Kind of an interesting game. Tennessee gets a big win over Houston. Washington losing for the third straight game. Man, Washington had that game. They came all the way back with that big Hail Mary pass to Terry McLaurin, but then the kicker misses the field goal, and then they give up a touchdown on the onside kick. That's just terrible. And some of the worst special teams play you'll ever see. Washington needs to get going. They've lost 3 straight. Tennessee has been able to stop teams on the ground. They've been able to stop teams through the air. Tennessee is a pretty darn good defense, all things considered. Despite their record, they've played some really good games this year. And Will Levis, despite having its issues, had a pretty good game last week. If he can continue to play like he has been, I can see Tennessee having a really good chance to win. I'm going to pick Washington just because I just think last week for Tennessee wasn't a fluke, but was more on Houston playing really badly than Tennessee playing really well. But I give Tennessee a fair chance to win this one. Hopefully Brian Robinson should be back from Washington. That would be a big help because you could tell their offense kind of took a shit when he went out. But I'm going to give the game to Washington. Jaden Daniels had a pretty good end of the game last week. I would like to see him continue that. He's going to continue to use his legs out there. Just sometimes through the air, he's just not that accurate. So that's probably one of his biggest issues that he needs to work on. But overall, Washington looks like to be the better team. Winning, 24-17. I give Tennessee a good shot to win, but I think Washington just is a little bit more And really, if Washington loses, red alarm time should be going off. If they lose a fourth straight after starting out the season 7-2, they could be in a precipitous fall for the rest of the year. Really, they still have a tough schedule coming up. Still got to play Dallas again. Still got to play Philly again. Washington has to win this week. This is a must-win in every way for Washington. Next. Tampa Bay versus Carolina. Now a somewhat interesting game. Carolina with the near upset over the Chiefs last week. Tampa Bay with the absolute pounding of the Giants. I mean, like I said, the game was never close. Bucky Irving has been great as a running back. Rachaad White's still getting his carries, but Bucky Irving has taken the reins of that running game and completely gone forward. He looks to be the better back. Honestly, he's starting to look like a better receiving back than Rachaad White as well. He's been great. Mike Evans is back. Didn't have the best game last week, but was consistently open, consistently got yards, nearly had 10 receptions. He was a big target for Baker Mayfield. Cade Otton hasn't done anything lately. Had a one catch for 30 yards last week, but nothing more than that. The defense for Tampa Bay played pretty solidly, but again, they played against the Giants, so we'll see how representative that is going forward, because Carolina played a pretty good game last week. Hopefully Jatavian Sanders is able to play. He escaped with only a concussion after landing right on his head last week and getting stretchered off. He looks to be a big target for Bryce Young. Xavier Legette seems to be a good target as well. David Moore as well. Carolina has options out there. Chuba Hubbard is still a really good running back. He was rewarded with a big contract. Hopefully Jonathan Brooks can get in there, because he could be the future of that team. He just needs to, get into playing shape after missing most of the year with the torn ACL. Their defense has been playing pretty solidly. Man, I don't know. I think this could be a high-scoring affair, but I'm going to give it to Tampa Bay. But Carolina has a really good chance to win. If Bryce Young plays like he did last week, Tampa Bay should watch out, because their defense ain't that good. So, in the end, Tampa Bay wins 26-23. Yeah, something weird like that. We give it a weird game like that. But Carolina has a really good chance to win. And if they do, could really put a damper on Tampa Bay's playoff record or playoff chances. But Tampa Bay, if they want a chance to potentially win the division over Atlanta, they need to win this game for sure. Next. Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints coming off a bye. The Rams coming off a pretty crushing defeat against the Eagles. I mean, Saquon Barkley just made them the whole game. It was bad news for the Rams. Puka Nacua looks to be the number one option for Matthew Stafford. He could not be covered last week at all. 9 receptions for 117 yards. Puka Nacua was pretty on point last week. And if you're looking for a really reliable wide receiver in your fantasy league, if you have him, I would continue to start him. He's been pretty darn consistent the last couple of weeks. He's not getting the touchdowns like you would like, but if you're in a PPR league or something like that, 9 receptions or half point, or even half point, 9 receptions for 117 yards. I mean, that's almost 20 points. You take that any day you can get it. The Saints, can they continue the streak with Rizzy? I don't know. Maybe they can. Their defense has been playing much better of late. Derek Carr has been playing better of late as well. Again, it's still Derek Carr, so you still can't trust how good they actually are. It's in New Orleans. Alvin Kamara, I like him to get the ball rolling in this game. I don't expect Olave back yet. I think he's still got a week or two left before he comes back. But, yeah, New Orleans could win this game. So if their defense can keep the offense in check for the Rams, I think the New Orleans Saints could win. But I will give the Rams to win. I picked the Saints last time these two teams played, and it's just like the Rams really are the better offensive team, the more consistent offensive team. And like I said, playoff spots are definitely on the line in this game. If the Saints want to have any chance to get into the playoffs, they need to win. I think basically if they lose this, their chances of the playoffs are kind of kaput like the Bengals. But the Rams definitely need to win as well. They need to keep pace in the NFC West because that's still up for grabs. I mean, look at the NFC East. Now the Seahawks are in first in that division, which is pretty incredible. But I will give the game to the Rams. The Rams win 30 to 24. Close game overall, but again, the Rams have a little bit more firepower. Next. And one of the biggest games of the week. You have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens. Two huge juggernauts, both with number 1, number 2 running backs in the league, Saquon and Derrick Henry. Both teams are going to go off in terms of running the ball this week. I don't think Baltimore is going to be able to stop Saquon, and I don't think the Eagles will be able to stop Henry. They're both going to have probably over 100 yards, I would expect. But in terms of the air yards, Philly should be able to get going a lot better than Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore is still a good team for sure, but it's so frustrating watching them play. It takes them so long to get going. The Eagles have similar problems at times, but whoever can establish a better running game is going to win this game. And I'm not sure. This is as close to a toss-up as you can possibly be. Lamar Jackson still continuing to be the MVP front runner in my book. I mean, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are starting up there, but you know how the NFL is. It's going to be a quarterback that wins this award. So I would give it to Lamar right now. But again, whoever wins the turnover battle is probably going to win this game. Philly, Jalen Hurts didn't have the greatest game last week, but that was only because Saquon Barkley took the ball and just ran it into the ground and just absolutely dominated the LA Rams. Defensive wise, again, the Baltimore Ravens still don't have much of a secondary, so I like A.J. Brown to have a pretty good game this week. Maybe Goddard could get going a little bit. For Baltimore, Lamar should have his throws out there, should have 2 or 3 touchdowns as well. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. As good as the Eagles' defense has been at times, I don't think either defense is going to be able to keep the offense down wide. It's going to be a high-scoring game. And when I say high-scoring game, I'm thinking in the round of Philly winning 35 to 34. Like I said, it's going to be a really close game. Could be the best game of the weekend for sure. Let me know what you think. But I think Philly just has a little bit more, and Baltimore really needs this win as well. Again, Baltimore needs to keep pace with Pittsburgh right now because Pittsburgh's got the head-to-head matchup right now, and if Baltimore continues to fall behind, Pittsburgh could win it outright the next time they play. So I will give it to Philadelphia. Philadelphia wins this game, but like I said, it's going to be one of the best games of the weekend, and I can't wait to see it. Next. And our last game of the week, Denver versus Cleveland. Cleveland coming off the big win. Denver coming off a uneven but a victory nonetheless against the Raiders. First time they swept the Raiders in a while. First time they won in Las Vegas. Bo Nix looking to be the real rookie of the year. Sorry, Jaden Daniels is still up there, but I gotta give to Bo Nix right now. Cleveland. Jameis Winston still throws an interception every game, it seems, but Nick Chubb is starting to look more and more like Nick Chubb. Their defense has been playing well. Myles Garrett had 3 sacks last week. I like him to get going again. Denver, their defense has been solid for most of the year. Bo Nix has been consistently getting the ball to Courtland Sutton. He's been a great option. In terms of the running game, it's been a different running back every week for the last couple weeks. Or 2 weeks ago, it was Javonte. Last week, it was Julio McLaughlin. And now, who knows? Maybe it'll be Audric Estime gets the lion's share of the carries this week. You never know what you're going to get from the running back stable in Denver, but usually it's going to be good. It's usually someone's going to lead with about 50 to 60 yards and maybe a touchdown. Just solidly consistent in the running game department. The defense, like I said, will have to keep going this week. Like them to get an interception or two off of Jameis Winston. It's in Denver on Monday night. Denver's still playing for a playoff spot. Looking to be in driver's seat for a playoff spot right now, at least a wild card. So I like Denver to win. Denver wins this one 24-21. Kind of a lower scoring game because both have decent defenses, but I think Denver just does a little bit more. They have the prospective rookie of the year on offense, and I think their defense will be able to get to Jameis Winston this week. But let me know down in the comments below what you think. Let me know what you think about all my picks. Let me know what your picks are for this week. Again, going to be a really good week. A lot of really good matchups. Some good divisional matchups as well. And a lot of playoff seeding could not be decided this week. But the cloud of war known as the NFL playoffs could be sorted out a little bit more by the end of the week. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Have a great day. And as always, go Pack Go, and God bless.